All right, drawing students, so I'm going to show you how to start drawing your still life. I'm using this photograph as my example. I'm going to create the drawing right here. I'm going to demonstrate steps 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to start by applying the midpoint technique. And this is something we used last week before Christmas break. So you start midpoint technique by creating 2 basic lines really light and then a third line an equal distance away. So you have 3 equally placed lines. The second thing you do is you look at your image and try to identify where is the center horizontally. From the very tallest spot to the lowest spot, where is the center? And I'm going to say it's right about here. So I know in my drawing this circular disc on the top of the camera is going to be about my midpoint. So I'm going to use that as a reference. Now, after I know that, I go down to step 5. I'm going to follow the blocking in stages. So the first step is to draw the angles. And I'm looking at the angles of the general object. And I draw these steps really light and quick because I'm trying to just establish the space. And I know I'm going to use the toning technique to shade over all this stuff later on. So I'm going to go kind of fast through this so you can see the idea of it. So I'm going angles. This is pretty much my angles. I'm already fluidly moving into now big shapes and small shapes. So my bigger shapes are the camera and the lens on the camera. And I'm also looking vertically at how these things line up. The stock, I guess, for the flash, where that is. And then this lines up and it looks like that is just a little bit lower. And then below this is where my shoe happens to fall. And the shoe angle shoots back. It's here. So my shape of the shoe coming a little longer than I thought. Smaller shapes here. And the end of this. And at the bottom of this there is this little clothespin that I had to install just to make my camera tip at the right angle. So big shapes, and now I'm getting to the smaller shapes. But before I get to the smaller shapes, I might have to make a few adjustments. I'm still drawing very light and loose because I know that the shading is going to change things. And then in the center. Some smaller shapes. Now I'm looking at the negative spaces. So the negative spaces are the spaces between the objects. So this distance right here, the distance on the bottom. So this is going to probably help me adjust quite a lot. So the bottom of this camera, the lens in the front is smaller, and then there's quite a big distance between this and the bottom of the shoe. So that's going to help me make the shoe shape correctly. Front of this lens. Okay, so the other places that I need to have a little more careful contours. Here. This is enough to kind of get you started. So this is steps 1, 2, and 3 in blocking in. And it's about how far you should probably get with your image today. So I'm going to stop here because I have everything set up for my scene. And then I'll get into this shading and negative spaces more in the next segment.